Fantastic. Well, welcome everyone. It's lovely to see you here on Zoom, and nice to see some familiar faces from our online courses and from the dojo. So welcome everybody. My name is Michael Kalikow. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm located in Boulder, Colorado, and I'm one of the faculty members, one of the teachers at Strozzi Institute. Very excited to be here with all of you. Again, as Salinas was saying, as you're joining, if you could just put into the chat where you're coming in, where you're calling in from. It'd be lovely to see that we've got folks from South Africa, from Maryland, Oregon, Tennessee, from Massachusetts, Vermont, Sweden, also someone from Boulder, wonderful, Toronto, New Mexico, Tucson, Arizona, representing Oakland, Western Mass, wonderful, great to see you. New Mexico, Half Moon Bay, San Francisco, wonderful to see you all and have you all coming from so many different parts of the world. We've got Texas with us, how wonderful. Great. So again, my name is Michael Kalikow. I'm one of the faculty members at the Strozzi Institute. And welcome to our session on requests and offers. We're going to be doing a deep dive into how do we make powerful offers and how do we do that from center. But before we do that, we're going to do some practice together. So for those of you who are familiar with the work that we do at the Strozzi Institute, it's all grounded in practice, working through the body. And we want to do a few foundational practices together before we go into our conversation around requests and offers. So if you would like to do your practice standing, you can do that. If you'd like to stay seated, that's fine. And we're going to start with a somatic centering practice. And we center in order to get present, open, connected, and on purpose. So present in the here and now, not thinking about what we have coming down the pike, not thinking about things from the past, but present in the here and now. Open to ourselves, to our bodies, to what's most important to us, connected to ourselves, to each other, and on purpose, which means that we are intentionally organizing ourselves in alignment with our values. So for this practice, if you'd like to come to standing, you can. If you'd like to stay seated, that works as well. I'm going to model this in a standing way. And let's just start by bringing some gentle movement to the body. So I'm obviously in a sling today, so please feel free to use both of your arms as you're moving around. Just take a few breaths. So inhale, bring the arms up overhead. And exhale, release that down. Walking in place a little bit, and then inhale, bring the arms up, look up at the sky, opening up along the front side of the body, and then relax down. And allow your feet to come about shoulders width apart. If you're seated, feel your sit bones on the chair and your feet on the ground if you can. And we're going to center first, before we center in the dimensions of length, width, and depth, we're going to orient to sensation. So feeling ourselves from the neck down. So deepening the breath and bringing your sensation to the body and noticing what's here. Where do you feel temperature? Where is your skin cooler or warmer? Where do you feel pressure? Where is there constriction? Where is there flow and aliveness? Noticing where your breath is. Is it high and tight or dropped and low? What's your mood coming into our conversation today? Getting present with yourself, getting present in the body. All right, and let's center in the dimension of length, the vertical line of the body. And let's start by settling. grounding, landing, arriving. So maybe go ahead and tense your eye band. So squint your eyes shut and then blink them a few times to relax. Do that again, tightening across the eyes and softening the gaze. We're going to center with our eyes open. So we're here with each other in community, in the world, as we're doing practice. And let's let the jaw go. So tighten down on the jaw and then let it go. Yawn a few times. As you yawn, letting your whole system land. Lift your shoulders up towards your ears and then roll them back and down. Shoulders up again and relax down. And go ahead and let the arms kind of chop down a few times so we can let any tension go that we might be holding here. Squeeze your butt, your glutes, your pelvic floor, and relax. Again, squeezing your glutes, squeezing your butt, and dropping down, letting the hips relax. Landing now into our legs, feeling the back of our hamstrings, our thighs, back of the knees, in the front. Feeling our calves, shins, landing in our ankles. Feeling the tops of the feet and the bottom. Go ahead and wiggle your toes and feel your feet making deeper contact with the ground. And bringing in a sense of rooting, a sense of landing. Drop an anchor from your center point right beneath your belly, between your legs, and see if you can go 10 feet or 3 meters down, really bringing an anchor down. In times of turbulence, change, transition, and challenge, a quality of ground is an offer we can give others inside of our leadership, our coaching, our relationships with others. And from this grounded, landed place, find your height, your dignity, extending the head up towards the sky. Create space between the vertebrae. Lift the sternum slightly up. Feel what it's like to be inside of dignity. Dignity is our fundamental right to be here, our value, our worth. Owning that, standing tall, standing proud. Offering our own dignity here as a gift to others, seeing others on the call standing in their dignity around the world. Recognizing that there's room for all of us to be our full selves here. There's enough room. There's enough space for us to be big and for others to be big with us. So along our vertical line here, standing tall and settling down, settling and straightening. Beautiful. Now let's center inside of the dimension of width, a place of social connection where we take up room, make room with others. And let's today start by taking our dignity away, our width away. And let's bring our feet very close to one another. So if your feet are one another, and notice how you're kind of a little bit tippy here, maybe cross your arms. See what it's like when we take our width away, when we make ourselves small. Noticing what's possible and what's not possible from this body. What it's like to present to others, to show up at a party, to make a demand for our dignity to be acknowledged. And let's shake that out for a second and go the other direction, feet really wide, Bring your hand out to the side, both hands wide out, and take up a little too much room. And notice what this is like. It's very stable. We're kind of pushing out into the world. We get to assert ourselves from here. But the challenge is it's hard to take in, to be relational and connected from here. So noticing what's possible and what's not possible, where this might feel like a relief, or it might feel vulnerable and too much to be this wide. And then let that go and just kind of walk in place and let your arms flap by your side to find this natural even width. And let's fill out from our spine to the left side of the body. Feel the left side of your face, left side of your neck, left shoulder, along the arm down to the fingertips, left armpit down the side of the waist, left hip along the leg down to the left foot. And now feeling the whole left side of the body come online. And now the right side of the body, right side of your face and neck, right shoulder down the arm to the fingertips, from the right armpit down the side of the waist, right hip down the leg to the outside of the right foot, and now whole right side of the body. And feeling now both the right and left side of the body, and see if you can extend your energy, your attention, your awareness, 1 or 2 feet out to the left and the right. And then maybe to the wall to your left and to your right, taking up more room, creating a bigger presence, and shaping the quality of your width as you need. So maybe you need to set a boundary. Where do you not let others in? Where do you hold the line? Maybe you need to become more permeable. Maybe you need to let others in, be more receptive. Organizing your attention, your energy, your soma, your living being in its wholeness, in accordance with your needs today, and feeling ourselves in a circle, standing in different parts of the world, from San Francisco to Colorado to Massachusetts to Sweden to South Africa to New Orleans to South America. Everyone on the call, feeling someone to your left and someone to your right, and then feeling the whole circle inside of our width, coming together in shared practice. Now let's feel our depth, centering inside of our depth by first rocking backwards and forwards, noticing how we come back on our heels, we maybe lean back away from life, or we come forward, leaving ourselves behind, charging ahead. Just kind of rock backwards and forwards and notice where your default is. Are you more comfortable kind of pulling away from life, from challenge, from others? Or do you kind of drive ahead, have more of a forward lean? And find balance between these two. Neither tipped forward nor pulled back. Here in present time, holding our depth. And feel the back side of the body, the back of our head and neck, between the shoulder blades, back of the arms, our lower back, back of the hips, behind the thighs, back of the calves and the heels, and feeling our back body as a resource. Visualize today 2 hands pressed against your back, holding you up. Those hands could be your ancestors, parents, coaches, friends, community. Who has your back? Leaning into that, those two hands there, feeling what it's like to have someone at your back. Who has that person been for you in your life journey? Feeling like we're not in this alone. Someone has our back today. And then opening up along the front line, softening the eyes and the jaw, relaxing the heart and the belly. Who and how do we need to be to face our future? Feeling that. And place one hand, the thumb of one hand on your belly button and your palm touching your belly. Feeling your belly with your palm. Feeling your palm from inside your belly. This is your physical center, your center of mass. And from this place, center around your purpose. Why are you here on this earth walk? What's important to you? If you have a declaration that you're working, you can go ahead and say that to yourself. I am a commitment to, letting your declaration fill you. If you don't have a declaration or don't know what that means, connect with what's important to you. Who or what is important to you? What's your purpose? Why are you here? Letting that fill you up and shape your tissues. Does that change how you look out into the world? Is your gaze softer or more resolute? Can you soften your jaw and your heart? Maybe let others in more. Can you stand taller in your dignity? Grow softer in your width. Feel your back and the history, your journey behind you. As you connect with your purpose, how does that live inside your tissue? Can let the hand go and let center again, length, settling and straightening with balancing from side to side, depth, feeling back and front, and purpose. We're going to take center into action with a practice called rowing. Some of you may be familiar with it, but if you're not, I'm going to first show you my feet here. My left foot is going to be forward. My right foot is going to be back about 1.5 feet apart. Imagine that your feet are on railroad tracks, so they're parallel with a little bit of width. So go ahead and take that stance there. And place your hands on your center. And we're going to start by bringing our center forward and backwards. We're centering in action. Center comes forward, bending your knees, backwards, in and out. Literally moving our center, what we care about, out into the world. Change feet, right foot forward, left back. Rocking forward and backwards as you do this, feeling your ground, your legs come online, and changing feet, left forward, right back. Keep coming forward and back here. And now you're going to grab oars. Imagine your hands are holding oars. And as you row, you come backwards and then arm comes forward, and find rhythm here. Find aliveness, find ease, and changing feet, right forward, left is back. And if you're seated, you can do this as well. Simply switching the feet of your position and rowing with your upper body. And change feet, left forward, right back. And changing feet one more time. And change every time. And build energy here. Build aliveness. Feeling ourselves rowing towards what we care about. How do we build connection with each other as we row? And as you change your feet, can you feel your ground? Can you feel your back? Can you remember why you're rowing? What your purpose is, and row towards that? And feeling ourselves centering here as we're rowing in length, with depth and purpose. Finding ease, finding flow, and smiling a little bit because we're rowing with people from all over the world, which is pretty cool that we can do that together. So finding a little joy inside of our rowing. And pause and feel here, and just letting that aliveness run. And notice what's different as you're standing in length, width, and depth. Maybe you feel more streaming, pulsing, more aliveness. Beautiful. And we're going to do one more practice, which is called a gratitude practice. So we're going to somatically through our body and transmit gratitude, feel gratitude in ourselves, cultivate that, and send that out. So go ahead and rub your hands together, bringing energy, aliveness into your palms. And then put your hands out to the side at about a 45-degree angle, extending down towards the earth and giving thanks to what comes from below, to the earth. Everything we've ever eaten or drank comes from the earth. All life is sustained from the earth. And go ahead and say out loud to yourself, what are a few things you are grateful to from the earth? Maybe water or trees, fruits, maybe your pets. And as you do that, feeling energy come out your hands, sending gratitude down. Beautiful. Turn your palms face up, come up towards the sky, and extend up, giving gratitude towards what comes from above, towards the heavens, the great mystery, the universe. Maybe you're grateful for clouds, the sun, for rain. Go ahead and say out loud, what from above are you grateful for? Let yourself feel that. Extend energy, care, gratitude. Beautiful. Now arms go out towards the sides, towards people. Who are you grateful to? Extending energy out your palms towards them, say their names out loud. Bring them into your heart. Recognizing how lucky we are to have these people join us on this walk on the planet. And then bring one hand over your heart and one hand over your belly and offer gratitude towards yourself. What's a quality you embody that you want to recognize, that you want to be grateful for? Go ahead and taking that in, feeling grateful for yourself. Beautiful. And letting that go, you can come back towards your screens. And if you would, write into the chat, what's your mood in 1 or 2 words? Part of our centering practice is we share our moods with each other. That helps us build relationship with ourselves, to know where we're at, and to share that with others, to build connection and authentic intimacy. Strong, aware, appreciative, committed, grateful, relieved, serene, tender, calm, grounded, contemplative, grateful, reflective, grounded, soft-centered, present, joy, emotional, grateful, thoughtful, content, settled, loving, myself, connected, here, solid, purposeful, at ease, connected, receptive, awestruck, beautiful, grateful, open, peaceful, soft, tentative, energized, integrity. Beautiful. Thank you all for sharing. My mood is really on purpose. I'm feeling really on purpose and grateful as well. One thing I just want to share about somatic practice and about the moods is if you're feeling, well, actually I feel anxious, or I feel angry or sad. That's totally okay too. And the purpose of the practice is not necessarily to feel good. It's great when that happens. It's to feel alive. It's to get more present with ourselves as we are. And so we can even be centered where I'm like, I'm really anxious, or I feel really devastated today. And we can still be centered inside of that. So I just want to acknowledge the full range of moods that we may feel. And I just want to take a moment to presence ourselves in the world and to recognize where we are, where for many of us, there's blessing, there's beauty and joy, and there's also challenge. We're still in the middle of a global pandemic, which is impacting so many in terms of their health and their livelihood and their ability to connect socially with others. We're in a moment where we're reckoning with climate change more profoundly and seeing the implications that's going to have for generations to come. We're in a moment where collectively we're in a massive grapple around equity and inclusion. And how do we make the world more accessible and more fair to so many who are disenfranchised, whether that's because of race or class or what part of the world they live in. So I just want to recognize that our practice of somatics takes place in a context. It takes place in a personal context for ourselves and a collective context for the journey of human beings through the world. And it's always helpful to presence that when we come together and do shared work. So I wanted to pivot and talk a little bit about requests and offers, and then do some practice around requests. Let me just start by sharing that requests and offers are speech acts. These are the way that we coordinate with others linguistically. We use our language to bring action into the world, to create reality. Requests are asking for a commitment to action. So an example, can you clean the dishes after you cook and not leave them in the sink? Could you spend more time with me? Can you have next year's projected financial report to me by the 15th of this month, right? These take place in lots of different contexts, from the personal to the professional. It's when we put ourselves out there and say, hey, this is what I am looking for from you. Can you give me this? And the intent of a request is that we produce action in the world, that someone will say, yes, I'm willing to do that. And we go ahead and create a new reality. Offer is very similar to request. This is when we put ourselves out there and offer to make a commitment to someone else. Hey, I'd be willing to spend more time working on our relationship. I'm available to be your workout buddy. I can get you that report you want on Friday, right? So we're making an offer of what we would be willing to do. And we want to focus mostly on requests. I want to tell you a little story about why I see requests as so powerful and how for many people, these are unfamiliar. We don't have this in our repertoire and the impact that can have. So the story I wanted to share is that not this summer, but the summer before, right after COVID came, I had a relative who took in other family members. So there were some people who lived in a particular urban area where they had a family in a small apartment, and there wasn't a lot of room for them. And just because of where COVID was, they didn't feel as comfortable living in a city. So they came to live with this older relative. And she had a bigger house in a suburban area where the COVID numbers were lower. And so this one part of my family went to live with another part of my family. And I was talking with the host, who was an older woman in her 70s. And she was, I'm like, well, how is it going having them there? And she was like, well, it's lovely. And I love the kids being here. And it's great to not be alone. And, this is wonderful. But I got to tell you, they're really messy. I was like, oh, well, what's going on? It's like, well, like the kids leave their toys everywhere. And, the mom and the dad, they're not helping out in the kitchen as much as I'd like. And, it's a bummer because I really put myself out here and I love having them, but this is, it doesn't feel great. And I said, well, have you talked to them about this? Have you asked them that the kids, could you have your kids put the toys away, and would you help out more? And she couldn't even take in my question. She kept going and complaining. And it was a really instructive moment to see how in her repertoire, this whole notion of making a request was offline. It wasn't something that she actually knew how to do. There's a lot of reasons for that. We could look to gender shaping and conditioning. She comes from a different generation. She's also an immigrant to this country. There's a lot of reasons why, for her, that wasn't something that she had been trained to do, to be empowered to say, oh, I have needs, and I can put myself out in a centered way, make a request, and change things. For her, she just knew how to complain. But I see this happening all the time. I talk to leaders in organizations about what's not working. And I say, well, have you asked them to change that? Have you given that feedback to someone and said, hey, would you do something different? And invariably people say no. So making requests can be hard, but it's incredibly powerful. And I'd love to hear from you all first. Why are requests important to you? What's the importance of being able to make requests? You can go ahead and put into the chat, why make requests? Why is that something that you need to do, a skill that's important? So go ahead and put that into the chat, and then we'll read a few of these in a moment once people have had an opportunity to do that. Great. One is we get frustrated when we don't make requests. So this is a way that we can manage our own emotions because we're not frustrated or disempowered. We can identify what we value and establish boundaries. That's huge. So making a request is a big way we can set boundaries. We can be fair to ourselves and others. This is really big. If we don't make a request, others can't read our minds, right? We kind of go around expecting, well, you should know this, right? But if we don't actually share, we're not being fair to others because they don't realize where we're coming from. We're also not being fair to ourselves because we're not honoring our dignity, our values, what's important to us. Caitlin here is writing reclamation of agency. That is so powerful. When we make requests, we honor our agency, our ability to shift our social relationships and change our world. So we locate power within ourselves. Jenny is saying we can't grow if we don't make requests. Spot on. Sarah's saying to be clear about needs. We need to first understand our own needs, and we need to bring those to others. So doing that through the process of making requests, really, really important. Caroline is saying, helps me to be more authentic in relationship, right? That's huge. How do we build authenticity if we're not actually speaking our needs? People don't know where we're at, so we can't move that forward. It makes relationships more sustainable, Maria is saying. So in that instance that I was telling you about, the story with my extended family, that visit is not going to be as sustainable if the host is not making requests, right? If she can't make requests, after a while, she's going to say, hey, I need you all to leave, because she's not feeling good about having those people there anymore. So the more we can make those requests explicitly, the more we can set relationships in a way that work for everyone, so they're more durable and sustainable. So there's a lot of reasons why requests are important here. Honoring what we need, self-respect, letting truth flow, be clearing about needs. And I want to go back to what Jamie was saying. This is powerful. Honoring my own needs and let others decide if they can meet those needs. So agency is a two-way street, right? When we're in this place of a centered request, we're getting clear with ourselves, our own agency, to say, this is what I want and need. Here are my boundaries if you can't meet them. It also lets others say, yes, I'm on board with your request. I will make changes to adapt, or no, I won't, right? I will be in my own integrity and agency to be in a decline. So it sets things up for really clear and healthy communication. Nicole is talking about safety, which is a huge part of that. If we can make requests and have others honor those requests or not honor requests, has a huge impact on safety as well. Okay, so beautiful ideas that you're all sharing in the chat. And making requests. So a few things that I would just want to share. When we set declarations, when we identify a future possibility that we want to bring in for ourselves, our family, our organization, our community, we need people to do things differently, right? By definition, when we set big intentions, big declarations, we are seeking to create change. And we live in a social world where we need to bring others along with us. So in order to fulfill on those declarations, bring forth future visions, we don't do that just alone, we do that in community. It allows us to coordinate with other people in a powerful way and manifest our vision. And I really want to acknowledge as well the being self-responsive to our needs, honoring our own consent, our own relationship of what works and what doesn't with others. And yet requests are really hard to do. In the story that I was sharing, this individual, she didn't even have requests in her repertoire. And there were a lot of reasons for that. And I'm curious for all of you, what gets in the way of you making your requests? What's tough, right? What are the thought patterns? What are the feelings? What are the behavioral tendencies? What gets in the way of you making the requests that you need? Go ahead and pop that into the chat. These are great. I'm going to start to read some of these. Not being clear and connected to what I need. Okay, so we can't bring a request out into the world if we don't know our needs. And for some people, we're kind of scratching their heads. We're like, what do you mean you don't know your needs? And for other people, you're like, how could I possibly know what I want? I've never learned how to find that. And every time I've stated a need, everyone's told me that it's not okay. So this is really an important thing to recognize. For some of us, the process of even getting in touch with our needs is a huge shift. It's a huge change. And going through the body, working with our feeling self is a powerful way to ask ourselves what we need. So simple practice we can do is put our hand on our heart and just close our eyes and say, what do I need right now, right? What's important? So everyone just go ahead and do that. Close your eyes and think about something in your life, a relationship. Think about what's happening with you at work, maybe. Think about what's happening in your family, with your home life, and just close your eyes and say, well, what do I need right now? And just start to practice getting in touch and feel what your body has to say here. What I need is, oh, I need more space. I need to be recognized more. I need more contact, more intimacy, right? I need more empowerment, right? Feel what's present. I need them to do the dishes. I need my neighbor to close, like to not have the music be so loud. I need my colleague to do her work on time, right? Whatever it is, like, what do you need? That's so powerful. So not being clear on what we need can be really important. I want to go through a few of the other ones that people were sharing. One is a fear of burdening someone else. Am I going to create obligation? Do I feel like I'm worth it, right? Do I feel like I have enough value to ask someone else to change something? So am I burdening someone? Rebecca's saying fear of conflict. When you make a request, you're asking someone to do something different than they currently are, and they might not agree with you. You might inspire or create conflict. And being more comfortable with conflict is a really important skill for ourselves. And how do we do that well? Don't want to make someone feel bad. Making a request is also giving feedback that someone is not doing something. Hey, Could you be gentler with me when you are speaking? Are speaking. It's giving someone some feedback implicit in the request. Someone might feel bad. Would you spend more time with the kids? Oh, you're telling your partner that they're not spending enough time with the kids inside of the request. Someone might feel bad. Donna's saying, am I worth it? Right? Powerful to say, am I valuable enough to ask others to change? Is it an appropriate request? That can be tough. I might be rejected. They might say no. They might say yes also. Oh, and that could be even scary too. Shame, not feeling worthy, conflict, rejection, trauma history, absolutely. Don't want to inconvenience others. Fear of losing a bond, being viewed as weak, feeling selfish. That's a really big one that I really want to acknowledge. Sometimes people really struggle to say, wait, if I put my needs out there in this way, how am I going to be viewed by others? So really, the feeling of being selfish it can get in the way for a lot of people, especially for those of us who've been conditioned to be other-oriented. And again, I want to call out gender as a big piece of how folks can be conditioned to abandon our own needs and look outside into the world. Race and class can play a huge impact on that as well, as do other dimensions of identity, such as immigration status. So those of us who might feel like we haven't gotten the right to look at ourselves and we have to look outside, this is a powerful disruption of that pattern. Okay, great. So there's a lot here. Conditioned tendency to not take up space, insecurity, and so on. So there's a lot going on here. So a few that I just want to really acknowledge is just the vulnerability of making a request. Big deal to put ourselves out there, not wanting to obligate something. And then success is a big one. So can we handle the success we get? So if we make a request, we might then get more intimacy. We might get more responsibility. We might get more connection. Things might start to work out the way we want and we lose our excuses. All of these things can happen. So the yes can be really vulnerable too. So we want to acknowledge all of these things. So a few things that we want to think about when we're making requests. Are we coming from center or are we coming from a place where we're triggered, right? So we're centered, present, open, connection, and on a purpose. Or are we angry? Or are we scared, right? Are we trying to vent at someone with our request? Or are we trying to create an invitation? So what is the quality of where we are coming from? That has a huge impact on how our request is received, whether we're empowered, but also whether we're creating an environment that makes someone want to partner with us. So are we coming from center or not? Looking at the listener, the person we're making the request from, are they sincere in being open to a request? Are they competent to fulfill the request? Do they have the capacity to fulfill? Sometimes we're asking people things that they can't do. This is especially important at work, or those of you who are parents. Are you asking a young child to do something that they don't have the maturity level to do yet? Developmentally, you're asking a 5-year-old to do something that an 8-year-old is more appropriate to do. So what's the capacity? Sometimes we're looking at the emotional maturity of our counterpart. We have a request of a person in our life, and we might need to recognize they're not going to be able to meet that request. They simply don't have the maturity, the ability to hear us, to get beyond themselves to do that. Doesn't necessarily mean we shouldn't try and make the requests, but we want to be mindful. Like, am I setting myself up for success here? In work, if you're asking a colleague to do something, does she or he have the bandwidth to do it? Do they have the skill set to do it? So as we're in conversations for action, we want to be thoughtful about competence and capacity.
Michael,
what breakdown?
Can you speak to when you're inside of companies or organizations and how sometimes requests are gendered, right? So you are not aware of, I'm constantly asking the women to do something that is inside of relational spaces versus the extension of asking those who are identified as male for stretch assignments. So how do those things show up inside of our requests, and how do we uncover like our biases inside of those places?
So Lunas, thanks for that. Such a great question. So gender and requests inside of organizational life plays out in so many different ways. So the first way, let's look at this, is who feels like they're entitled to make requests. Often folks who are male identified feel, and they've been given rewards for making requests. Identified and women don't feel like they have the ability to make those requests. And so the first thing is just like, who has the ability to make those requests? And we want to look at ourselves. Oh, am I making requests or not making a request? Am I afraid to put someone out or not? That's a very gendered experience often inside of organizational life. And by the way, I see this in Fortune 500 companies as much as I'm seeing this inside of like small bootstrapped nonprofits. So this plays out, for senior leaderships as well. And obviously for folks who are gender non-conforming, this plays a very big role as well. And then in terms of who receives requests, who do we offer that stretch assignment to? Who do I want to ask, hey, would you be willing to take this on? Are we more or less likely to give that to a person who's male or female? When the request comes to us from someone, and this plays out especially in terms of things like negotiation. Women are often making requests are not viewed as positively as men, right? So a man who makes a request is viewed as just assertive, sticking up for himself, moving things forward. A woman who may make the same request is viewed as a little bit pushy. So there's a lot of prejudices and biases that are happening inside of organizational life around gender. And this has a huge impact on how work gets done, who disproportionately does certain kinds of work, gets access to different opportunities. And, with regard to the question of how do we disrupt this, first thing is start to become aware of it. Be, aware of the tendencies, track the requests you make, the requests others make. And then it can be really interesting to start to have conversations with others around these and to raise awareness. So there's a few really good ones. Woman making a request in an organization can be seen as incompetent or needy. This is especially vis-a-vis asking for help on an assignment. Andrea is saying, what about when only women are asked to get the coffee? Right. So, I mean, certain things that feel very, very old school and shocking when they kind of show up in certain workplaces that are more progressive, to recognize that this is a norm and it's happening for a lot of people of who gets asked to do these sorts of things. So, Linus, did you want to jump in with additional thoughts here?
Yeah, I was going to say that also works across race and ethnicity as well, right? So where we talk about it in gender, which is a pretty open conversation, but those things happen inside of our gender identities across race and across class. So I just want to open up that piece.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you for all of that. So just really want to acknowledge the social context that we're operating inside of. Just given the time, I want to give us an opportunity to transition to practice. And so as we practice, all the stuff that we were just talking about vis-a-vis gender and race, see how this is playing out for you as you're in this, whether you feel more or less comfortable in the request practice. So here's how this is going to work. We are going to do a request practice, and it works like this. We're going to center length. We're going to stand or sit. And if you can stand, it's actually a little bit easier for the practice, and I'll explain how. So you stand, you center length with depth, you connect with a request that you need to make in your life. Where do I need to make a request to my boss, my partner, my family member, my friend, whoever? You're going to stand and put your right hand out first and say, I'd like to make a request. You're going to take a few steps forward, stop, say the request out loud. My request here is, will you go out to dinner with me? So I make the request, and then I'm going to pause and feel and imagine that there's someone in front of me who I need to make this request. and what it's like to put myself out there. So let me go over that again. We'll do this on the right side twice, and then on the left side twice. So center, standing in length, width, and depth. And if you you can do the seated, just hold your arm out, and you might just shift your weight forward instead of walking forward. But if you can get up and walk, this is a powerful thing to do. So imagine the person that's in front of you who you need to make a request of. So see them there, visualize them, tracking them, and get in touch with the request that you need to make. And center yourself, length, width, depth, purpose. How do you want to be here? Hold up your right hand, extend that forward, and say out loud, I have a request. Now walk forward. Imagine you're standing right in front of the person. And go ahead and say your request out loud, extending it out. Say your request. My request is, will you give me that stretch assignment? Will you give me additional responsibility today at work? Will you do more of the childcare and pick up the kids from school every day this week? What requests do you need to make in service of your declaration? And go ahead and feel, what's it like to put yourself out there, the vulnerability of the request. They might say yes, they might say no. Okay, shake that out, let that go. And again, we're going to do this one more time on the right side. So standing here, facing the person, imagining they're in front of you. Get clear on the request that you need to make. Put your hand up. Right hand is up, extending your energy forward, meeting the person with your gaze. Go ahead and say out loud, I have a request. Walk towards them, and then say your request. Will you? Can you? And just feeling here, noticing what you notice. What do you feel in your body? What do you feel emotionally? Letting that go. And now we're going to work the practice on the left side of the body. So we do right arm and then left arm. Because my arm is in a sling, I'll just be modeling with my right arm again, but please use your left hand here. So again, facing the person that's in front of you that you need to make a request with. And take on a big request. What's one you're afraid to make? What's one you've shied away from, but that would have a big impact in your life? Go ahead and extend your left arm forward. Left arm is forward. Say, I have a request. Say that out loud. I have a request. Walk forward. Come right up to them. State the request out loud. Will you? Can you? Please. And feel what that's like to hold yourself out there. Noticing the feeling. Do you feel relieved? Are you anxious? Do you feel like you're taking up too much room? Are you worried about obligating someone? Are you excited that you're moving your life forward? Feel what you feel and let that go. We're going to do this one more time. There was a great question of why both sides. We work both sides of the body to see what's different on the right versus the left. Sometimes we experience something different. In some traditions, there's an energetic quality for the right versus the left side. But we want to practice wholeness, symmetry with both sides here, and be in a study. Is there something different on my left side versus my right side? Wendy, thank you for that question. So left arm is forward. I have a request. Feeling ourselves center. Walk forward from center. And state your request. Putting ourselves out there. And we're not blocking with our hands. It's as if we're making contact with someone. We're putting our hand on their chest, their shoulder. We're touching them, we're reaching out. So it's not a stop sign. It's kind of like a reaching out towards, bringing our energy out. And from here, receiving our response from them. Imagine we're receiving our yes or our no, taking that in. And letting that go. And would love to hear questions from folks. We have a minute or two, and then let's just see any questions that came out of practice. So go ahead and either take yourself, raise your hand to be taken off mute, or type a question into the chat if you've got one. Yeah, Nicole.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, Michael, for this practice. My question's about clarity and requests. So one of the things that I noticed was that my request for a group of students that I just started to work with, the request respect of the space, respect of myself, and respect towards others. And I realized that what I need immediately, my inclination is to explain what I mean and give more detail, but I'm not really sure if that's like a response that's coming from feeling like the request is not like it's too much, or because it's not clear enough. So basically the question is about helping how to clarify requests, things like that.
It's a great question, Nicole, and I'll answer very briefly given our time. There's two dynamics here. One is the ways that we can systematically undercut ourselves by over-explaining, and we want to watch out for that because we're diminishing our confidence and just the power of putting ourselves out there. And the other is a very important instinct, which is to create clarity. In our language, we call those the conditions of satisfaction. So how does someone know if they've met our request? How do we know if they've met it, right? So we've identified, well, this is what that actually looks like here, and here are some of the criteria. And what I would encourage is a practice of just getting really clean with our requests, to put them out there, and then to say, and I'm happy to explain more of what that means, and leave it there. And then we can go into that in a way where we can own the dignity and the power of putting ourselves out in a clean way, and also support the effective coordination. So there's a bunch of really, really great questions that are here in the chat. I'm happy to hang out for another few minutes and answer those questions, but I wanted to turn to Salunas, who is just going to share a little bit about some of our upcoming offerings at SI.
Yes, thanks, Michael. So Michael will be leading, one of the teachers leading our October in-person embodied transformation course. So many of the things that he's teaching here, he will also be teaching in that course in person. That's October 14th through the 17th. The link is in the chat. We have 4 more spaces in that course. So if you want to join us, I would quickly enroll in that course, or reach out to me if you have questions. Also this year, we will have Somatic Trauma and Resilience, led by Stacey K. Haynes. And I know many of you know that name, and I hope you've probably read her book, Politics of Trauma. But that course will be November 4th through the 7th, and looking at acts of resilience, how to heal personal and collective shame and trauma. So it's a really powerful course. You do need to complete the prerequisite for this course, which is Embodied Transformation. That's the course that Michael here is one of the lead teachers for in October. If you have questions for any of those, also, again, you can set time with me. I'm putting both of these courses in the chat, so please copy them before the call ends, and we hope that you will join us. Now, Michael, I do have a call right after this one, so I don't know about extending the time other than an additional 1 minute, but I can turn it over to you if you like.
Great. Well, I will just say thank you all for joining today. Lovely to be in shared practice with you all. Want to acknowledge that there were a bunch of really powerful questions in the chat. I'm sorry we didn't have the time to respond to them. And I will just say as well, just the question around having a request of ourselves, powerful line of inquiry. We can do this practice that we were doing, visualizing that of ourselves. Right? What does it look like to show up to ourselves and make a request of ourselves to further our declaration? So lovely to be again in practice with all of you, and look forward to seeing you on the mat again soon. Thank you.